Welcome back to the 127 Fit podcast. Today's guest is a doctor of physical therapy. Today's guest is Dr. Missy Albrecht. Dr. Missy, I want to welcome you to the 127 Fit podcast.
Thanks for having me.
For sure. All right. So Missy, we're going to jump right into things. I've got a few questions here in regards to a warm-up. The first question that I have for you is, how do you start your day? Do you have like a specific morning routine or ritual that you like to stick to on most mornings?
So every morning I wake up and get my coffee going and spend probably about 20 to 30 minutes sitting in a deep squat position, doing gratitude, praying, Bible study, meditation, that kind of stuff. So that's my quiet time, my must-have.
Okay, so the deep squat, is that like an Asian squat type of a movement, or something different?
I'm basically sitting on a yoga block. So it's basically getting bowel movements. Right.
Mm-hmm. Okay, now, because I like for myself, like I do like Asian squats. I'll do like like 4 or 5 rounds, 6, 7 rounds for like a minute as kind of like a part of my warm up before I do movements. Like I did them this morning when I was at the track before I did kind of my workout stuff. So is that just kind of, you said for the bowel movements, is it also just like kind of stretch things out and to loosen things kind of in that groin area and stuff as well? Or?
Yeah, just working a range of motion. We don't hang out
right.
often.
Okay, cool. Now, is that kind of that position? I just want you to expound a little bit more, because like I kind of understand like the importance of that, like that movement or that position, but a lot of people that are going to be listening to this on my end will be like, what are you guys talking about? So just talk about maybe like with evolution and just kind of like all this sitting and stuff that we do. Why is it important for us to be in that squat position? What is kind of the value of, practicing that?
Yeah, so healthy joint mechanics, we should be able to sit in a deep squat comfortably for an extended period of time. Even I personally can't do that, just growing up playing soccer and using my body in that sense. But using a yoga block allows me to relax a little bit more. So it's trying to get out of that traditional 90-degree angle that we're constantly sitting in. So that deep squat gives me that opportunity, because I can't always do that throughout the day. But on the bowel movement side of things, the squatty potty, most people have heard of the squatty potty. So it's basically, we've started to raise toilets more for safety for people falling, but there's an area of your intestines that actually kind of get pinched off, and it doesn't allow you to eliminate properly if you're at that 90-degree angle. Right. So being in that deeper squat helps to relax the pelvic floor and get the bowels moving.
Perfect. All right. I love that. That's great. So in regards to kind of like the praying and the spiritual side of your morning ritual or your morning routine, what does that kind of add in regards to value to your life and to yourself personally?
It has evolved to just become a requirement at the beginning of my day, because I have such a high processing speed in my brain that if I don't take that time to, say thank you, talk to God, have that, not quiet mind, but just that perspective of taking a step back and looking at my thoughts, then I just get wrapped up in emails and Instagram and taking care of the dog and that kind of stuff. So cool. It is, I love it. I love mornings.
Yeah, and so like your faith and stuff like that, has that been a big part of your life for most of your life? Did you kind of grow up in some sort of a faith, or was it something that kind of came into the picture later on in your life?
So I grew up Catholic.
Okay.
And my parents were always like, we want to introduce our children to this, but then allow them to take their own path. And I steered a little bit away from it in college, and actually came back through a lot of energy work and more, I would call it the spiritual side of things.
For sure.
Just the meditation and using light to clear and calm your body. I had a lot of issues with anxiety. And finally, a few years ago, through life circumstances, was able to reconnect it back to God, and
cool.
It's been awesome.
That's good. I like that.
It's good being grounded in something.
For sure. Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's super important for us to realize that there's a lot more to life than kind of like the material things and the day-to-day grind and craziness that most of us are living in, you know. So, all right. Is there a favorite book or book that you like to gift often?
So, I'm a big audiobook person because I own a dog and I walk her a lot. One of the biggest books I've gifted recently was actually called F Insurance by Danny Matta.
Okay.
Which is all about cash-based physical therapy practices. But I would say the one I recommend to my patients most often is The Woman Code.
Okay.
Which is all about hormone balancing. What's another one?
That's okay. 2 of them is good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. All right. Is there a favorite quote or mantra? If there's more than one, because I know for a lot of us, there's different quotes and mantras kind of throughout our lives and the different seasons we're in. So maybe if there's one like kind of in the season that you're in right now, a favorite quote or mantra that you wouldn't mind sharing, that'd be great.
Yeah, so you would laugh if you walked into my apartment because I have Post-it notes and like dry erase markers written all over my mirrors. But I would say the biggest one is actually from my dad that has just been really applicable in life, which is just in emotional times, stick to the facts so that your emotions don't take over.
Cool.
And that has just helped me in so many, you know, business situations where you want your emotions to play a role in your decisions or stuff like that. So.
Absolutely. So what's one quote or mantra or saying that you have like stuck, let's say, on your mirror in your bathroom?
So this one's actually next to my vision board, and it says "lean into the discomfort." Okay. Because there's this whole idea of avoiding pain and discomfort. So trying not to always cover it up.
Right. Cool. Now, what's like you hear, like especially with like high performance people, athletes, entrepreneurs, they talk about vision boards and stuff like that. But maybe for somebody that's listening to this that doesn't really know that terminology, what is a vision board and how important and valuable for you personally is having something like that in your life?
It's been such a key player, and what's really cool is when you I started making them on Pinterest. Okay. So it was just images of things that I wanted to happen in my life. And I would look back a year later when I was going to make my other one, and I would see like things actually happen.
Absolutely.
So now I have them like pinned on my wall in my house. It's my screensaver on my phone and my computer. Yeah. And it's just a reminder of those goals that you set. And when times get rough, it's so nice to just see that. Right.
So do you believe in like writing things down and so writing the word and speaking the word, and then once you practice that and kind of get that into your mind, do you believe that those things then will come to be?
Definitely.
For sure. Yeah. And I ask that because I believe that there's words, specific words, sentences that I write every single morning, right-handed, that's like my strong hand, and also left-handed. And the left-handed thing is just kind of that to try to get out of the comfort zone and try something different. I've been doing it for now like a year because I just want to be proficient writing left and right. But that's beside the point. The point that I'm trying to make is like I'm just kind of asking about that because I believe in that. And I can go back now. That's like one of the first things I wrote down was like, podcasts, kind of like website, and like everything that I've kind of written down, it's come to fruition. So I'm just like writing bigger things down. I know as I take action daily and get that kind of locked in my mind, those things are going to come to fruition as well. So
yeah.
Cool.
Just take some time to get into that routine.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Okay. So the last question, Missy, as a part of the warm up that I have for you is, do you have a favorite or most listened to podcast? And again, if there's more than one, feel free to share.
Yeah, so it kind of depends on if I'm on information overload or not. If I'm fresh, I love listening to Danny Matta's PT Entrepreneur podcast because that just helps me stay in that business mindset. Right. I love the Pleasure Points podcast, which is more the mindset, emotional stuff, James Rohr. Okay. I listened to Whole Fit, which was another good mindset one, Ange Peters. Okay. Lots of different, just kind of depends on Right now I'm actually working through some mold in my life.
Okay.
So I've just been searching my podcast app for mold and going down the rabbit hole.
Now is that like like literal mold, or do you mean something else by that?
Like mold in my body.
Oh, okay. So like what? Okay, explain that to me,
please.
Like
mold that would be growing on the wall.
Yeah.
I came into contact with a couple years ago, and it's still in my body. So I'm working with Dr. Sienna.
Yeah.
Pick it out.
Okay, interesting. All right, because I didn't. I was like I know mold like in your house, but I didn't think that's what you're talking about. So I was like,
as disgusting as it sounds.
Okay, yeah. All right. We're probably gonna get into some other interesting talks. So we'll leave that one for the listeners to figure out. Oh, that's good. That's a lot of times it's just like when you let's say you're an athlete and you get injured, you kind of maybe not become an expert, but you learn a lot more about, let's say, an ACL injury because you dealt with it. So that's kind of how we learn about some things in life, is through different experiences, So.
Well, and I think part of me thinks God put that in my life because there's patients that I have that are stuck.
Yep.
That could be a piece of it. So
absolutely, yeah. For sure.
Experience.
Every situation in life, if you're open to it, is a learning experience. So, amen to that. All right, so let's just talk a little bit, Missy, about your background, and kind of like I said before we turned on the mic and started up the conversation for the podcast. We're just going to touch on this lightly. There's a few points I think that you're going to kind of share in regards to some issues or struggles that you had when you were younger, and then we're just going to kind of dive in to where you're at today and discuss some different topics. So if you don't mind sharing with myself and the listeners where you grew up, kind of what the childhood was like, extracurricular activities, that would be great.
Yeah, so I grew up in Torrance, California.
Okay.
Apparently the land of the earthquakes right now.
Yeah.
And, awesome by the beach. I think it was high school. So I grew up playing soccer. That was my main sport. Some swimming, some volleyball, that kind of stuff. But I was having some pretty bad headaches, and they didn't know what they were from. Almost had to quit soccer, just the obvious of hitting balls and hitting people. And at the time, the main thing that helped me was actually physical therapy.
Okay.
So I went to a PT down there, and it was a lot of postural education, postural strength, because we didn't do a ton of strength training in high school. That was 2003, so that wasn't really like a thing. And it helped my headaches so much that I was like, I want to do this. I want to do physical therapy. So when I graduated, I went and played soccer at UC Davis. And I was still I almost wanted to be a vet actually, which was interesting. And then I switched to exercise biology, which was an awesome program at Davis. So played soccer, spent time in the training room, more injuries, more just like solidifying the fact that I want to help people through this stuff too. And at the end of college, I was just like getting sick all the time. I would go for a run, I would get sick. I would be sneezing. I was drinking a ton of beer, eating a lot of pizza, so there was a lot of factors going into that.
For sure.
But I decided to take a year off, apply to PT school, and just like figure out my health. So I moved back home to Southern California, saw a bunch of doctors, tons of medication, tons of weird concoctions, and they had diagnosed me with chronic fatigue syndrome, which in my opinion is just like, we don't know what's wrong with you.
Right.
And I ended up working with a nutritionist out there who, it was so traumatic at the time. That was 2008, and I had to go gluten-free, and there was nothing gluten-free.
Right, yeah.
So some of the things I made and threw away were very entertaining. But cleaning up my diet kicked the chronic fatigue. And so that was right before I started PT school.
Okay.
And I think, looking back, I kind of feel like the headaches were maybe the start of the chronic fatigue, and then everything just continuously leading up kicked it. But once let me backtrack. So I worked with the nutritionist, kicked the chronic fatigue, but I was also having back pain at the time. And so I started PT school, had the professors, of course, work on me because I was like, fix me, this
For
is
sure.
awful, I'm sitting all day. And they had done an adjustment on me and it made it worse. And the professor who did that specialized in visceral manipulation.
Okay.
And he was like, this is not coming from your back. And so I gave him more of my history, and he worked on my intestines because of my whole digestive stuff.
Right.
And got rid of my back pain.
Hmm.
So it was, you know, this young PT student just blown away by the fact that my organ can actually create issues like that. So.
Okay, so I want to just touch on a couple things within that, and then we'll move forward. But now, earlier when we were kind of going through the warm-up questions, you had mentioned your struggle with anxiety. I would like, if you don't mind, talking about that. Was that something that came to life once you kind of started having the headaches and some of the sports injuries, and then having the digestive issues, or was the anxiety something that was, you know, way back in your childhood? Where did the anxiety come from, or where do you kind of remember it starting up, and then how did you kind of work through the anxiety?
I don't remember it being a big childhood thing. I remember it being more college and post-grad, grad school and that kind of stuff. And that's where I really, you know, the whole gut-brain connection, and I feel like my gut was just crying out for help. And so cleaning up the diet definitely helped, and I started to just, it's that like key of body awareness, right? So you feel anxious, but you don't always know to look at what did you just eat yesterday or what did you drink that triggered that. It's usually like something that you spoke to someone about. So starting to pair with, you know, every time I drink, the next 2 days I feel super anxious. So maybe it's alcohol triggered. So it was a lot of that. I was working with an energy specialist at the time. And then ultimately coming back to my faith. Those were my main fixes with it. But even with this more recent flare-up of mold, I've had to go through some more like management of the anxiety symptoms because I just feel like, you know, the mold just sits in your gut.
Right. Now, like I've struggled with anxiety since like I was a tween, and there's a lot of different trigger points for me in regards to anxiety and things of that nature. But like for me, like being so anal about my own like health and fitness and all that, like I'm always like ingesting information and listening and reading. Have you found, because like, and I'm kind of pulling this from kind of this mold experience, have you found like, because you are so like concerned about your own personal health and other people's health, like it's easy for that anxiety to kind of flare up when you have an issue with the mold and you know like it's unhealthy, you know it's bad for you, or maybe you eat something with gluten in it and you know what's going to happen? Like can there be like an information overload in regards to health and fitness and wellness, and can that cause anxiety for you personally?
Totally.
Right. I'm asking because it does for me like big time.
And this is what goes back to like being given that experience so you can help other people through it. So this was, because when I first found out about the food intolerances, I sat in my car crying like for days because I was like, I can't have beer, I can't have pizza, that kind of stuff. And so there's almost like levels of health where you're ready to have that receptiveness to change. And so even like more recently with the mold, I was like, oh my gosh, I have to get a new car, I have to move, I have to detox my dog. Like it was very overwhelming. But I would say I'm, because I love learning about that stuff. It's not usually my main anxiety trigger. I just love learning about it and having those like trigger moments when I'm with patients of like, oh, this could be helpful. So
like, I know you said like your faith has kind of been important, but let's say like you're just going through your day, there's a trigger in regards to your anxiety. How do you deal with that and overcome that just day to day when you're maybe not in the morning, you know, you don't have like maybe your spiritual stuff or whatever, like what's your mindset when that trigger kind of goes off in regards to your anxiety just in the day to day?
So my main go-to is essential oils.
Okay.
I keep a few in my backpack, wallet, something like that, and just when we breathe them in, if it's a pure essential oil, it goes straight to your limbic system and can trigger that mood calming or a happy memory or something like that.
Okay.
So I'm either breathing that in or putting it. I have a grounding blend on right now.
Okay.
And it's just so nice when you're on the go and you can't stop and sit and
cool. Very cool. All right, so let's just start talking about kind of like where you're at today as a doctor of physical therapy. There's a few kind of areas that I want to touch on, and you already mentioned this kind of in your own health journey in regards to just kind of your digestion and working through the gluten thing and all that type of stuff. But the visceral manipulation, that was terminology as I was kind of like studying you, looking at your website and stuff in preparation for this podcast conversation that I was not familiar with. So I had to kind of like go on the link on your website and read about it, and it really fascinates me. So, and it kind of seems like it's a pretty big part of your practice, and obviously you have personal experience with it. So would you just kind of dive in as deep as you want to, Missy, in regards to what is visceral manipulation? Who is it for? Why would somebody need it? And just kind of take the ball from there.
Yeah, so it's a gentle therapy technique to ensure that all your organs are moving properly, essentially. So between one another, within the organ, and also surrounding tissue, so the spine, muscles, nerves, that kind of stuff. It was created by Jean-Pierre Barral. You may have gone on that website at some point during that rabbit hole. But it is, I truly believe it's the missing link in a lot of people's movement issues, because people look at the abdominal area and they think muscles like core and breathing, but not necessarily how your organs can be contributing to your ability to put your arm overhead or squat down. So I see a range of athletes working on like maybe a pinch in their hip, and maybe they had their appendix removed and they have some scar tissue in that area that's just not allowing that hip joint and muscle to work properly. But then I've got, this is why I talk about poop every day, because it's constipation, IBS, a ton of like bladder conditions, postpartum, because the organs get dysfunctional through maybe scar tissue surgery, or just an inflammatory diet.
Right.
So if everything is inflamed and you're not pooping every day, then things can get off.
So it's basically, is it like kind of like a light massage for your organs then?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So let's talk about bowel movements. Let's talk about poop and digestion, because I mean, if you're just a little bit into health and wellness and all that type of stuff, like the whole gut and just kind of like all that type of stuff, it's kind of like this craze right now, and everybody's like, oh, gluten-free and this diet and that diet for your gut, and it's just crazy. So how important is like our gut health and kind of like having those organs aligned, and how important is it to like poop every day? How many times, like for a healthy person, should you be having a bowel movement? Let's just discuss that, because I think there's a lot of people that are really confused. I think a lot of people maybe understand it's important to like poop every day or have that bowel movement, but there's a lot that goes into it, and there's a lot of confusion, just like anything in health and fitness. So would you just kind of clarify some of that for us, please, Missy?
Yeah, so I would say like 1 to 3 times a day is a good range.
Okay.
Definitely on a daily basis, and a lot of it is quality too. So if you're not eliminating fully, if maybe it's just a little bit or it's really loose, you're basically starting to reabsorb toxins that your body's trying to kick out. So that's the normal process. We eat, absorb nutrients, and then kick out what we don't need.
Right.
And as you're breathing stuff in, touching stuff, your body's collecting all of that stuff and kicking out what it doesn't want. So if you're going a whole week, which is, it's surprising how common people think that that's okay, then your body just starts to reabsorb toxins, and that's why you start to get stressed out, anxiety, brain fog, that kind of stuff, because it's just, you're backed up.
Right.
It's terrible.
So 1 to 3 times for a bowel movement is considered that like healthy or normal or good, right?
Yeah, I think that's a good range, because all bodies are different and we're
Right.
going through different stuff.
Right.
I would encourage definitely a daily a daily thing. And you'll look at, I've had so many patients who they've been deadlifting and thrown out their back. And we start to piece together once they get comfortable talking about their poop and their elimination schedule. They start to realize, like, every time I've thrown out my back, I've been constipated. So it's just that awareness of, like, okay, if I'm backed up here, maybe my breathing's not going to be as efficient. My core isn't going to stabilize as well. And so maybe that day I shouldn't lift as heavy. Something like that.
Right. So, like, let's talk a little bit about constipation, because a lot of people deal with that. So, like, what is constipation, and how can somebody, if they're like listening to this and they're like, dude, like, I'm always constipated. I'm the person that poops like one time a week or twice a week or something like that. So, like, what is constipation? Like, why is it harmful to us, unhealthy? And then how can somebody kind of start taking steps to get those regular bowel movements?
Yeah, so constipation is basically not eliminating, I would say, on a daily basis. And not eliminating fully. And it can be caused by a food intolerance, inflammatory foods, something you shouldn't be eating. It can be caused by medications, so side effects of that. It can be caused by stress, so just the increased inflammation with that, but also eating on the go. So if you're, we're supposed to be in this rest and relaxation setting in our body to digest food, and if you're just go and shoving a smoothie or a bar, did you do that?
No, I'm a go kind of guy. So
then your body's not ready to even receive that food. And so a lot of times, there's a lot of steps that go into your body seeing the food, your salivary glands stimulating to be prepared for that food. And so, if the stomach acid doesn't get balanced to be more alkaline going through, I don't know how detailed you want to get.
Just whatever.
Yeah, it's just, there's a lot of different steps. Maybe the liver and gallbladder are backed up because you can't digest fat very well. And so that's not dropping bile into the intestines to break down fat, and so you get backed up. So it's a complex question.
Right.
But what's really cool and what I've studied so much with the Bowel Institute is you have to pay attention to what is going on with the body and where that's coming from versus they're constipated, I'm only going to work on their intestine.
Right.
Because it could be an ovary that maybe had a cyst that's adhered to the small intestine and creating this kink in the hose and not allowing them to eliminate. So lots of different.
So I'm assuming you take in your practice a holistic approach to everything. Is that correct?
Totally.
Okay, so for somebody out there that maybe, and just quickly and simply, for somebody that doesn't understand what holistic is, what does it mean to look at somebody or look at life holistically?
So if I were to just look at them in my office in an hour, not paying attention to the other 23 hours that they have in their day, they're never going to get completely better. So how are they moving? What are they eating? Do they need to work with a nutritionist? What's their mindset like? Do they need to work with a mindset coach, psychologist, something like that? That body awareness, how are they sitting? How are they treating their body? All kinds of things.
Okay, cool. So it's kind of taking the full person and their full life and dissecting it from there. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, so just kind of when I was looking through some of your information and things, I kind of came across kind of like these three pillars of movement, education, and healing. So would you kind of explain why those three pillars are important to you and kind of like why those are the pillars that are kind of a part of your practice or a part of you working with your clients?
Yeah, so movement, I just think movement is medicine and it's so important. And even when you're looking at someone trying to gain range of motion, flexibility, mobility, if you don't use it, you're going to lose it. And so, you can stretch a ton, but it's that repetitive position that our body needs to make that change in tissue. So it's moving frequently, moving well. It's not always going to be perfect, but just to have that awareness is so huge. And that ties into the organs too. So making sure those move. Education, it's interesting because I feel like, you know, a lot of times in the physical therapy world, it's, you know, you need your PT to do stuff. You have some homework, but there's been this transition, especially my mentor, Kelly Starrett, when he got started with his work, he was taking what we were doing as physical therapists in the clinic and giving people more tools that they could do at home. So that education piece is huge because I don't want someone to have to be reliant on me 100% all the time. I think it's so cool for people to have that option at home.
Right.
And then we're here more to guide that program and answer questions.
Mm-hmm.
And then healing is just, it's a journey. There's always something to be working on. So I think giving, you know, you get the patients who come in and they're like so stressed and overwhelmed with all the things wrong with them. And I think that we are doing a disservice to those people if they leave that way. So it's really getting people to understand, like, okay, you're doing it this way and you're getting pain. So let's try it this way. Maybe it helps, maybe it doesn't.
Right.
And just helping them along.
So in regards to the education, you know, I know, like, ideally it would be great if somebody came and saw you, like you diagnosed something or saw something that they need to improve or work on. You give them quote unquote homework. They go home, they do it, all is good. But we don't live in a perfect world. We don't live in an ideal, like, society. And the reality is it's much easier for people, including myself, to pay somebody to work on them, stretch them out, have them move, you know, personal training, whatever, and kind of go on with their day. So how do you, if you give somebody some homework and they don't do it, how do you approach that? Because, you know, like you said, there's a part of it's where, like, you want to get paid, so you need people to come in and see you, right? Like, that's reality. But also, you being a caring person and wanting to help people, you want them to do their homework, want them to get better and move on. There's always going to be people, because of our culture and our society and a lot of issues, there's always going to be people coming through the door to pay you. So how do you approach somebody, though, that you really care about and you're really pouring yourself into, and they're not doing what you're asking them to do? How do you approach that situation? How do you have a talk with that person? What does that look like?
I see that more as a fault on my part of not communicating well with them, because part of the whole holistic approach is, okay, how much time do you have realistically to do something? And some people tell me I don't have time. And I'm like, okay, you can pay me weekly, but it's not going to be ideal, but we can have a team, and especially with the recovery center here, getting TLC that way.
Right.
So it's being clear about that and having that communication, because if they come back and they're like, I didn't do anything, and I'm like, okay, that's fine. How can I help you build this into your routine so that when you're doing your meditation in the morning anyways, can we work on your hip flexibility at the same time? So it's like a really fun way to problem solve. So I try not to, there's no shame. Because I get it, like I'm a patient in other realms too, and so it's like, how can I help this person? And maybe I'm not the best person for them. Maybe they do need more, like, massage therapy weekly, and then doing that stuff. Cool.
All right, so let's talk about like the essential oils. You mentioned them a little bit, and I know. You know, some people love them, some people aren't into them, but why have you kind of found that they are really beneficial for you and maybe some of your clients and some of the people that come to see you? What's the value? What's the importance with essential oils?
Yeah, so I was, with all the organ work, part of it was noticing that a lot of patients were coming to see me chronically on Tylenol, Advil, ibuprofen, Aleve, that kind of stuff, and just knowing what that does to our tissue healing, our gut, and just the toxins that you're putting in your body. I was like, I just moved to Denver, I can become a hippie and play with the essential oils. And so I started using this stuff at the grocery store and learned very quickly that it's not regulated, and just like the supplement industry. And so it was extremely important to me that if I was recommending something to a patient or using it on them, that it was pure and legit and did what it said it was supposed to do. And so I did a bunch of research and landed on doTERRA, and it started helping patients with pain. You know, I can give someone who's constantly constipated or bloated some pain relief as they're making their lifestyle changes, because that healing journey isn't an instant change, right? So having the oils to help with pain, with anxiety that they're having because they can't compete in their meet next week, stuff like that.
Okay, so like the oils then, like, I mean, there's all kinds of different essential oils, right? So like, are there like specific essential oils for like specific issues or specific struggles maybe somebody that's having? How do you apply and how do you use them?
Yeah, so I use a lot of frankincense and copaiba in my office with turmeric on areas of pain. I use them in my diffuser just to keep the air clean, not spread germs, that kind of stuff. I personally legally can't recommend internal use of anything, just with my PT license, but I personally take them internally for...
Like ingest them?
Yep, underneath the tongue or in water or something like that, or in a pill. So there's a lot of different ways that you can service your body, but I would say for the most part with my patients I'm teaching, you know, put some lavender in your diffuser at night so that you sleep, because sleep is when your body heals. Right. So we need you to be sleeping.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So because I mean, my mom, she uses essential oils. Like she puts them like on herself, like when she goes to bed, and she tries to get my dad to partake, and he's not into all that stuff.
You might need the science of it.
He needs if we paid him to partake in essential oils, he'd probably do it, But outside of that, it's not going to happen. So. Okay, so what's the importance of self-care, and what is self-care?
So self-care, I feel like, begins from that body awareness standpoint of really knowing how you're feeling and what's happening, because if you're not aware of what's going on in your body, then it's going to be really hard to care for it. Right.
So what is, I mean, because like you and I understand like what self-care is and body awareness, but for somebody that's out there that's just like self-care, body awareness, so what does it mean to what is body awareness? Like, I know you and I understand, you've kind of talked about it, touched on a little bit throughout the conversation, but just like very black and white, what is body awareness, and how can somebody start having body awareness?
Yeah, so the first step is, when you have something come up, pain, bloating, taking a step back, taking a moment and being like, okay, what did I just do an hour ago, a couple hours ago, yesterday, that maybe could have triggered that?
Okay.
And honestly, I think meditation and that kind of stuff is really important to getting there. I know a lot of people don't like meditation, but you have to be able to get out of your head to feel what's going on with your body.
Right.
Because you've probably heard of a lot of people who are like, I'm fine during the day, my shoulder doesn't bother me, but the minute I lay in my bed, it hurts. And so then they get a new bed. They're like, it must be my bed. I'm like, no, that's the moment that you're finally shutting your brain off and actually tuning in to what's going on. So I would say it's just learning the different signals that your body can actually show.
Okay. And so for somebody that is wanting to maybe start this process of body awareness, self-care, would you recommend maybe journaling or starting out by writing some things down, or using an app to kind of track some of like, okay, after I went to this restaurant and I ate this food, later that night or the next morning, I felt like crap, achy, all that stuff, brain fog. Is that a good starting point for somebody to kind of start tracking stuff, write it down, put it in an app?
I love the journaling.
Okay.
Journaling is really helpful.
Okay, perfect.
You can voice memo yourself or whatever works. But especially I work with a lot of women and their cycle, so trying to figure out what day they're on and keeping track of it. But whatever. So one of the biggest things I help people with is body awareness of their posture. And so I teach them what to kind of look out for, and they'll come back to me and they're like, you would not believe how many times I shift and lean on one hip. And I'm like, there you go, that's a celebration. You're not shaming yourself because you're doing that, but now you're tuning in and slowly making that habit change.
Cool. Is there like an app or two out there that you're aware of that you can kind of maybe put some of this information into or not?
Oh man. The only one I know is the women's cycle one, which is
Okay.
Flow, FLO.
Okay.
But yeah, maybe.
Okay, no, that's cool. That's cool. I just wanted to ask because I'm sure there is probably an app or two or a
Sure.
million out there, but
Yeah.
I'm not really too much of knowledgeable about the app. But all right, so Missy, let's talk about avoiding furniture. I saw something on your website, kind of like you were like on a furniture fast at some point. So what is all of that, and are you still doing that? And kind of what's the reasoning, and should somebody else maybe do that?
Well, I'm sitting in a chair right now, so
Uh-huh.
I'm definitely not on a furniture fast right now. But I can't remember her name at the time, but when we recorded that podcast, I was doing some work with Stand Up Kids,
Okay.
which is the Starettes, Kelly and Juliet Starrett.
Okay.
They were trying to get stand-up desks for all the kids in the United States. And so they had interviewed someone that was doing a furniture fast. And the idea, when I shared it on my social media and did it myself, was it's increasing the people's awareness of, hey, I don't have to always be in this chair. I can sit and do something on the ground too.
Right.
So it's creating more opportunity for those different positions.
Okay.
So I don't think it's not realistic to avoid furniture
Right.
all the time, but giving people those extra ideas of the variety.
And it kind of goes back to tying in with the body awareness, correct?
Yep.
Just so if you're at, you know, the bank or whatever, and that's your job 9 to 5, and you have to sit down, then, you know, just maybe be aware of your posture, be aware of, hey, after every 15 minutes, half hour sitting, maybe I should get up, walk for 5 minutes, go for a walk on my lunch break. So it's kind of just all coming back to that body awareness and just kind of being in tune with yourself. Is that correct?
Definitely.
Okay, cool.
And I think, like, the other piece of that too, and when you're working with a practitioner who's gonna guide you, so let's say your goal is to get into a deeper squat.
Right.
Then you should be hanging out, not just stretching in a deep squat, but hang out in that position more. If you're working on your overhead position, you should be moving your arm in that position throughout the day to give that body that stimulus.
Okay, cool. All right, there's something else that I came across on your Instagram was Face of Justice. Is that something that you're still kind of involved with? And if so, would you just share about that? Because that is something that I'm, as a teacher and involved with youth and serving in that way, is something that's really important and I'm super passionate about. So if you're still involved with that, would you just kind of share about that and just take that wherever you'd like?
Yeah, so I met them actually through doTERRA. They were requesting essential oils to help. So they are a nonprofit helping human sex traffickers. Victims of human sex trafficking.
Right.
And so they rescue them. They have a safe house and are working on transitioning them back into the community. And then they also do some stuff in the red light district to help prevent a lot of that stuff.
And that's here in Denver?
Sorry, that was in San Jose, Costa Rica.
Okay.
So I helped raise some money to get them some free essential oils, and they asked me to fly out there in February to teach them how to use them. So I brought another physical therapist with me who's worked with a lot of trauma, and it was amazing. It was such a cool experience to see what they're doing and how the oils were so powerful in the moment for those women. And we taught them some self-care stuff too, as far as like rolling and breathing. And so now what's happening is we're just doing, that physical therapist and I have been teaching a monthly movement class.
Cool.
Just to share what we share with patients every day.
Absolutely.
And all the proceeds are going to them either through essential oils, or they were building, it should actually already be built, a second safe house.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So as much as you kind of know about it, because like a lot of people are very ignorant about sex trafficking and things of that nature, and it's crazy how big that is, like specifically in the United States of America, how much money and all that stuff is involved. So would you just maybe kind of quickly, Missy, as much as you know, and you're kind of cool sharing with, like how big and how like bad in the sense of like, you know, just involved like in our country, like in the money, how bad is it in our culture?
It's really bad. And I think it was really interesting. I've had 2 people stop me this week because they know that I was involved with that group. And they're like, did you hear what happened in Manhattan? Did you hear what happened in Los Angeles?
Right.
And I think, I kind of think it's a good sign because it's becoming more aware and people are getting caught. But I think even 16th Street Mall in Denver is one of the top areas.
Right, for sure, yep.
So, you know, Costa Rica, San Jose has one of the largest brothels in South America. And it's just, it's so disturbing to see what's going on. And it's unfortunate because it's both sides. It's the men, but it's also the women not being brought up in an environment where they are meant to be loved and cherished and cared for. And there's alcohol involved, there's drugs involved. It's kind of like, how do you tackle it? Yeah, no,
it's crazy. But I think the way that we tackle it and the way that we continue to tackle is just to you know, educate and bring the awareness, you know what I mean? So more people will understand, like, it's an issue. Like being a school teacher, where I was teaching the last couple of years, like I had some conversations with, you know, coworkers and stuff like that because of the area of Colorado Springs we're in and just kind of the type of students we had and just the area where our specific school is located. I was like, hey, like there's more than likely there's some of our kids that are, you know, involved in this or they're getting, you know, pulled into it. And I mean, people are just so ignorant. Like I think a lot of people, and it's not just with like sex trafficking, but it's just like with anything kind of negative or bad or however you want to word it in our culture. Like people basically just want to, even if they know what's going on, they want to look the other way. You know what I mean? Because it's maybe it's overwhelming, or it's like, how can I help? Or, you know, that has nothing to do with me, so I'm just going to live my life. So I think that education and continuing to bring that awareness and shining the light on it, I think that's the greatest way that we can kind of tackle it and kind of chip away, you know, at the issue and the problem.
There's a group too, I don't know if you've heard of Shift.
No, I haven't.
It's in Denver, I believe. And they're even tackling it from the standpoint of like teaching children about porn, because they're finding that porn is leading to that stuff. So it's been cool to see like how they're approaching
That's
it.
great. Yeah, I'll have to look into Shift because I'm always just interested in serving and helping people. So, all right, so we're gonna wrap things up here just quickly, because you said earlier, like, movement is medicine, and movement, I firmly believe, is in our DNA. We were created, we were made to move. So if somebody is sitting on their couch listening to this podcast, Missy, and they know that they want to get healthier, they know that they need to be moving more, where can somebody start in regards to movement? What is your suggestion?
If they're sitting on a couch,
get rid of the couch, burn the couch?
I would just say sit on the floor. Step 1, stretch your hips. I mean, if it takes, you know, leaving Post-it notes around to stop and do 10 squats or a couple push-ups on the wall, it's all about making those habits, setting alerts on their phone. But it's, you know, it's such a mental thing because you get all these New Year's resolutions of moving more, but people failing, it's like, why is that actually happening?
Right.
Getting off the couch just sucks you in.
Right. Literally and figuratively. But I think like a good starting point would be just like walking, right? I mean, that's a pretty good starting point.
Walking is good. And it's the variety of the walking. Like swinging your arms and bending down to touch your toes, because you get people who are on this mission to lose weight and move more, and they start having foot pain because they're just walking miles and miles and not taking care of their body. So like I like seeing the ladies, you know, they got like the dumbbells in their hands, or they're swinging their arms, they got their bandana on. I look over, I'm like, whoa, that's crazy, man. But that's actually legit, huh? They're on it.
Dang. There's a reason behind the madness. So, all right. So last question that I have for you, Missy, is what sets your soul on fire?
Oh man, it's got to be learning.
Learning?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Just always learning to be able to help people, and not to be a know-it-all, but just to shed light on people and learn from them too.
For
I
sure.
learn so much from my patients. So.
Beautiful. All right. So, Missy, if somebody wants to get a consult with you or follow you or connect with you, how can somebody find out more about you, find out kind of where you practice, what your practice is all about if they're interested?
So I've got my website, stayinvincible.com. There's a really cool interactive organ diagram on there. My ebook is on there too, which is Organs, Oils, and Optimal Health. And then I'm on Instagram at stay_invincible.
Stay_invincible. All right, cool. So Missy, thank you very much for your time today. I appreciate you sharing a little bit of your story and just kind of sharing about some of the things that you've learned in your life journey. It's greatly appreciated.
Yeah, thank you for letting me spread the word.
Absolutely. So listeners, thank you for hanging out with Missy and myself today on the 127 Fit podcast. If you are interested in following along my journey and my guests that I'm bringing on the podcast and just kind of checking things out in regards to the 127 Fit podcast, you can find me on Instagram. It's at 127 Fitness. My personal IG is at QVars. Facebook is at Quentin Vars. And if you guys would do me a huge favor and please leave a 5-star rating and review, that would be awesome. I know that you guys are finding great value in the guests that I'm bringing on the podcast. So that rating and review, that 5-star rating and review, just helps more people find the podcast and more people get positively impacted. If you think you'd be a great guest, or if you have a friend or an acquaintance that you think would be a great guest or guest, please send me an email. The email is 127fit@gmail.com. Just tell me a little bit about yourself, and then we will go from there. And as you find value in the podcast and the guests that I'm bringing on to the podcast, would you please do me a huge favor again and share that episode or episodes that you're finding value in on your Facebook and Instagram stories. And please use the hashtag #BeSomeoneToFollow. That way, again, more people can find the guests that I'm bringing on, find the podcast, and once again, get positively impacted. That's the name of the game, is just to provide a platform for my guests to share their story so those who listen will be positively impacted. And per the usual, I will leave you guys with Proverbs 24:10, which states, if you faint in the day of adversity, your strength is small. This time, until next time, I will catch you guys later.